Let's be real. The culture is obsessed with making us want to fit in. It's like there's this unspoken rule that says you have to blend in to be okay. But here's the thing. God didn't design you to fit in. He called you to stand out. Most teens today are compromising what they believe just to keep the peace or keep their friends. But honestly, compromising is a trap. Today, we are joined by Kayleigh, Rosie, and Sadie. We're looking at the life of Daniel. He was a teenager just like you, living in a place that tried to strip him away from his identity. But he made one decision that changed everything. If you are tired of blending in and you are ready to stand out, this episode is for you.
Don't you know that all your colors stand out from all the others, like a work of art?
Welcome back to the Uncommon Teen podcast. I'm Coach Jamie, and I am joined today by our co-hosts.
Hi.
Hello.
Ladies, the culture we're living in right now is so loud. It's aggressive, and it's everywhere. It's on our phones, at school, in our music. It almost feels like if you don't go along with what everyone else is doing or saying, then you're the problem. You're the one being, quote unquote, difficult, just for wanting to honor God. So that's exactly why Daniel's story matters so much. He wasn't some superhero. He was a teenager in a messed up culture. He saw his own friends, guys he probably grew up with, just fold. They started compromising because the world was making it, quote unquote, worth their while. They were being rewarded for blending in. And so I want to talk a little bit more about this, ladies, because I feel like what Daniel has been walking through in his life, or what Daniel walked through in his life, that you are in a similar place in the culture that we live in now. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like you're in a similar place as what Daniel was?
Yeah, I think so. There are so many places. Social media is a really big one. Our friends and our school and our technology. There's so many things that are making us just want to blend in. And there's nothing wrong with like following what's trending sometimes if you like it. But if it's the thing that you seek and you're always running after, it can become a problem. God didn't make us to blend in. God made us to stand out and to be uncommon.
Yeah. Yeah, I really feel like that's why you see a lot of the girls wearing the same outfits or, like the similar things, because they just want to blend in. They don't want to stand out. And I was talking to a teenager just recently. They have an opportunity to be out in front of people, and they're like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to stand out. And it's like, you weren't called to blend in. You were called to stand out. What about you, Rosie or Kayleigh? Do you think that you guys live in a culture that's similar to what Daniel walked through?
I definitely think so. I definitely think there's also rewards for blending in and following the culture just like there was back then. More people may like you, or you might have more followers or whatever. Maybe it's not even an online thing that you are into, but yeah, there are rewards for doing what everyone else around you is doing, for sure.
I agree with that completely. It's not the same situation, but it definitely is similar to what we go through. I know I definitely struggle with not wanting to stand out. That's the flesh in me that I have to fight, is I don't want to stand out. I don't want to be different. I used to do a bunch of stuff to blend in. Even the way I dressed was to blend in, not necessarily because I liked it, but just because I didn't want to stand out. So it's even fighting against that, not blending in so that you don't stand out, but just standing out and learning to live that way and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I think there's a difference too, because you don't want to stand out just for the sake of standing out. But you stand out because God has called you to stand out, because there's a reason that he's calling you to stand out. And I know that was one thing that I walked through. Even on my wedding day, I was terrified to go down the aisle because I didn't want to be the center of attention. But I remember I was getting ready for one of the Uncommon Teen live conferences, and I was just talking to God on the way there. And I was like, God, I don't want this. This is like such a heavy weight to carry, because I was so stuck in my head of like, I'm going to be the center of attention. And it was in that moment of calling out to God and just being like, God, this is yours. You take it. And like, I basically had to lay that pressure on God. I will do it because you're calling me to do it, but I don't want the credit for it. I don't want all of that. And because of that, God was able to do something really beautiful through Uncommon Teen Live, because I was stepping back and saying, this is yours. I want to take a minute and I want to read through Daniel chapter 1. So King Nebuchadnezzar comes in and he defeats Judah, and he takes the teen guys and he's like, I want the guys who look the best. I want the ones, they don't even have any flaws, no blemishes, like nothing. I want the best of the best. I want all your teen guys. And he brings them over to his country, Babylon. And in verse 6, it says, among those were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belteshazzar, Hananiah he called Shadrach, Mishael he called Meshach, and Azariah he called Abednego. But I love what verse 8 says. This is the one decision that Daniel made that changed everything for him. It says, he resolved that he would not defile himself. So with that thought, Daniel made it, he purposed in his heart, he made that decision. He said, I am not going to go with the culture. I'm going with God. How does that decision shape everything for your generation?
Oh, it changes everything because it forces you to make a decision about who you're going to hang out with and what you're going to participate in and what you're not going to participate in. And choosing to be different when you're probably going to get looked at. Maybe some people will stop liking you or call you a Jesus freak or whatever it is.
It just changes everything, like Rosie said, because you have this in your head that this is what I'm going to do and this is not what I'm going to do. And when you make that decision, you still have to fight quite a bit, but it's easier almost. Your mind is made up. You know what you're going to do. And I feel like when I have my mind made up about things, like when I go into life, when I go into conversations, I know where I stand. And I know it's easier for me to be like, no, I'm not going to compromise because I already made the decision that I'm not going to. It definitely changes something in it.
There's not like a question in your mind, should I do it, should I not? It's like, no, I'm not going to do it now. It's a question of how do I follow God in that situation.
What does it take to get to that resolve, to get to that place of where you're like, I'm not just going through the flow. We were talking about this in SOAR last week about how there's a lot of Christians that are just kind of going with the flow of things, like just, whatever. It is what it is, and trying to go with the flow of the culture. But how do we get to that resolve of where we're like, I want more than that?
Well, the culture isn't going to give you the things that you truly desire because everyone has a God-sized hole in their heart that they try to fill with all these other things. And so it's just going to leave you broken and empty. And when you understand that fulfillment, true lasting fulfillment comes only from Jesus, then that's probably what leads to that. And then you're like, yeah, it's going to be hard to give up some things, but it's going to be so much more worth it.
Sadie, what are your thoughts? How do you get to that resolve? How do you get to that point of where you're like, I'm going on with God and this culture isn't going to have its say on me?
There are tons of people in the Bible that would be amazing people to follow in their footsteps. Jesus is a perfect example for us. Jesus didn't go with the flow. He didn't follow what other people were doing, like what his disciples were doing, but he stood out and he did everything differently. And I feel like if we get into the Bible and read about him, then we can follow in his footsteps and be different like him.
Yeah, absolutely. It really stems out of taking that time to spend with God. It's hard to read your Bible every day. It's hard to remember to talk to God during the day. There's so many things that are vying at your attention. And where we talked about earlier, the aggressive nature of this culture. But that's where I feel like a lot of apathy or complacency or just kind of like, whatever, that mentality creeps into the church because there is so much to distract you. And so much is like, I need this right now. And so what are your thoughts on the aggressive nature of the culture, the notifications on your phone or the draw of Pinterest or things like that? What are your thoughts on that aggressive nature of the culture?
I mean, there's always something trying to take your attention away from what God has for you at that time. That's a big thing for me right now. I have a lot of things that God's called me to, but it's just so hard to battle the temptation to, pick up my phone. There's a notification from whatever. And then getting distracted.
Yeah, it definitely is a struggle with having so many distractions. It seems kind of funny that we focus more on things of this world than we do of things of heaven. Because when you think about it, what happens after death is so much more important than life right now. It seems kind of crazy that we can hardly find time for eternity, but all we can find time for is right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a
so
good
true.
point.
And like I struggle with it too, definitely.
To Sadie's point, we can get so wrapped up in the little things that go on, but there's people around us that need Jesus, people that aren't saved, people that need you to stand out so that they can see who he is.
Yeah, because this culture is very much focused on what makes you feel good, what makes you happy, very selfish. And we're called to be the opposite of that. We're called to give, and we're called to bring people to God, and we're called to step out of our comfort zone and live outside of it. The culture is pretty much opposite to what we're supposed to be doing as Christians. And it's so easy to fall into it of just scrolling on your phone or not talking to that person that you know you're supposed to talk to and tell them about Jesus. And it's so easy to focus on yourself. Like, well, what are they going to think of me? And it's all inward. When as Christians, it's supposed to be outward and focusing on God and others, not yourself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
I mean, I
good.
think back to my teenage years. I didn't grow up as a Christian, and I needed people like you guys to share the truth with me. And thankfully, a friend of mine invited me to church because, I mean, I don't know when I would have heard the truth of how much God really loved me because my friends were too afraid to stand up.
Yeah, it's so sad because sometimes I wonder, something that motivates me is hearing people's testimonies and then thinking like, what part do I play in somebody else's testimony? And just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of our culture, if there's an awkward situation or something you want to get out of, like you pull out your phone and then you're scrolling on your phone. But what if there's a person, like, I don't know, you're waiting to go to the dentist or something, let's just say, and you're in the waiting room and there's other teenagers around you and everyone's just scrolling their phone, but maybe they need a friend. Maybe they need to be invited to youth group or church or whatever.
It's crazy to think about because even hearing people's testimonies and when someone invites them or someone steps out and that's such a big part of their testimony and how they came to Jesus, it encourages me because I think, what if that person hadn't? What if they fell into what I fall into so much of not wanting to do it? Because what if I'm wrong? What if it's just in my head? What if they think I'm weird? And it's like, what if they fell into that temptation and didn't step out? It's so important that we step out because you never know what God has planned. You don't know the big picture.
Yeah, definitely. Like Kayleigh was mentioning earlier, the whole world is so focused on ourselves. But if you think about it, if everyone is focused on themselves and you step out and do something that is different, then nobody's really even going to notice because they're all so focused on themselves too. We're all thinking, oh, they're going to think bad about me. But they're probably just thinking about themselves the whole time. Kind of just gives us a layer of protection.
That's very true, yeah. Sometimes I think about that when I have an embarrassing thing happen to me or whatever in public, and my mom's like, no one thinks about it. They're all just thinking about themselves or whatever.
Yeah. But you know, that also makes it even more powerful when you step out and you share Jesus with them, or you offer to pray for somebody that you can tell is down, and maybe you don't even know the person, but you offer to pray for them. How it makes a huge impact on them because somebody noticed them. When everybody is in a world of, I'm in my own little bubble and I don't care about anybody else, somebody actually stopped to notice them. And that makes an impact in and of itself.
Huge impact, yeah. I was just talking with some friends about the first time that they met me, and I try to be super, whenever I first meet someone, I try to connect with them right away. But in my head, I'm thinking, oh, well, what if they don't like me? All this, like, whatever, to try to stop me. I talk to my friends later and they're like, people aren't like that. People aren't like you. They don't just go up and notice people. But that strengthened our friendship. Those friends that I have, we're so close. And so sometimes I think if more people got out of their comfort zone when they don't want to and just said hi to someone, if more people did that, the world would be a lot better place.
When you step out, you give others permission to do the same. And that's what happened with Daniel. Daniel stepped out and he said, I'm not going to go away from God. I'm not going to go with this culture. I'm going all in with God. And it gave his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you know the story of the fiery furnace, right? It gave them the courage to step into that fiery furnace and know God was going to be there with them. But ladies, no matter where you are, I want you to repeat after me. And I want you to really mean this with all your heart. I am beautiful. I am valuable. My beauty and my value, they don't change. Even if someone fails to see how incredible God made me. All right, ladies, we were talking about the SOAR Collective a little bit earlier in this call. We have what we call the Uncommon Teen Collective. And the Uncommon Teen Collective is designed to help you grow in a stronger walk with God. We've got 3 different tiers. We've got the digital tier that includes the magazine, the worship playlist, wallpapers, the digital devotional to help you dive deeper into the Word of God. And then we have that next level up, which is the Uncommon Teen Bundle. You get a high quality t-shirt. We have the physical deep dive devotional, and then you get 2 vinyl stickers included in that. And then we have the SOAR Collective, which is all of that, plus the SOAR coaching community. And like I said, all of these 3 ladies have been in the SOAR coaching community with me a long time. These are just some of the ladies that are inside the group. And let me tell you, it is amazing. So if you want to learn more about that, go to uncommonteen.com/collective and get signed up today. All right, ladies, remember that you are loved by God. When he looks at you, looks at you with so much love in his eyes. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Remember to stay uncommon.